Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. Dr. Urius Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today we are going to go through the top damage dealing barbarian subclasses. I've got 11 of them. You can see number 11 right there, Path of the World Tree Barbarian. We've got to go through the top 10 after that. So we're going to go through each one at a time. I'm going to give you my reasons why I'm putting these in a very specific order. And I just want to point out, these are not the top barbarian. These are the top damage dealing barbarian subclasses. We're going to do a separate video about the top tank barbarian subclasses, which is going to have a completely different ranking than this one. We also are going to be doing builds with these, so stay tuned. This is going to be a great series of videos. So we got lots to talk about, lots to go over. Stay tuned and don't go anywhere. All right, as we said, coming in at number 11 is Path of the World Tree Barbarian. So we're putting this one at number 11 because none of the subclass abilities actually add to damage. We've got the level 3, level 6, level 10, and level 14, which pretty much either are control abilities or they're temporary hit points. You can see here, Vitality of the Tree. When you activate your rage, you get temporary hit points. At the start of each your turn while your rage is active, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of you to gain temporary hit points. It's all temporary hit points. Branches of the tree, that's a strength saving throw, or be teleported in unoccupied space you can see, and then have their speed reduced to 0. That's battlefield control. Battering roots, during your turn you get a greater reach, and you can push or topple, but not enough damage there. And lastly, we've got travel along the tree. When you activate your rage, and as a bonus action while your rage is active, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space. In addition, once per rage, you can increase the range of those teleports to 150 feet. That's just movement. So nothing here really talks about damage. So this is not going to be high up on our list. So we're putting this one at number 11. Coming in at number 10, we've got Path of the Wild Magic Barbarian. So before I go on further, we are talking about a very specific set. Some of these do include some of the legacy content. Some of these include some of the new 5.5 content or D&D 2024, whatever you want to call it. We do have a few third-party sources in here. I did not include all of them. I just wanted to get the top 11. So coming in at number 10 is Path of the Wild Magic Barbarian, which is in the legacy, coming out of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So let's take a look. All right, here we got Path of the Wild Magic from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Like I said, this is a legacy, and it's all about randomness. There are a few abilities. We get 2 at 3rd level, and then we get another 6, a 10th, and a 14th. Some of these abilities, albeit they are pretty random, do give some extra damage. So we get our magical awareness. So as an action, you can open your awareness to the presence of concentrated magic, and you can know the location of any spell or magic item within 60 feet. That's kind of a nice little thing. You can't use this all the time, though, so it's proficiency bonus for a long rest. And then we get Wild Surge. Wild Surge has a few abilities in here that will do some damage, like Shadowy Tendrils will do a D12, gives you some temporary hit points. Number 3, an Intangible Spirit, does some damage, but not all of these do extra damage, so they're not fantastic. The magical energy inside you sometimes erupts from you. When you enter your rage, you roll on the wild magic table, and then there's a dex save. At 6th level, we get the bolstering magic, so you can touch a creature for 10 minutes. It's a D3 on an attack roll and an ability check, and you add that number. Or you can just roll a D3 and the creature regains 1 expended spell slot. So you can kind of channel your magic. We get Unstable Backlash. When you are imperiled during your rage, the magic within you lashes out. Immediately after you take damage or fail a saving throw, you get to roll on the wild magic table and immediately produce the effect. And finally, at 4th level, we get Controlled Surge. Whenever you roll on the Wild Magic table, you can roll twice and choose which of the 2 effects to unleash. If you roll the same number twice, you can ignore the number and choose any effect on the table. So you get to choose twice. So it's a little bit more control, but for the most part, there's not a lot of damage dealing effects on this. It's just a lot of randomness. So let's go to number 9. Coming in at number 9, we've got Path of the Storm Herald Barbarian. This is another one of those legacies, and it comes out of Xanthar's Guide to Everything. So a lot of these from Tasha's or Xanthar's are actually legacies. Not a lot of these have moved over to the 5.5. But this is number 9, Path of the Storm Herald. Let's take a look at it and see what damage dealing abilities it has. All right, here we have Path of the Storm Herald for Xanthar's Guide to Everything. This is number 9, and it comes with 4 abilities. Of course, Storm Aura, Storm Soul, Shielding Storm, and Raging Storm. This is not a party-friendly subclass, so it will do damage to allies. So the first thing you get is your Storm Aura, and this is tied to Desert, Sea, or Tundra, and it extends for 10 feet from you in every direction, also known as an emanation in 5.5. It activates when you enter your rage, and then you can activate it again on each of your turns as a bonus action. And it's got a saving throw that procs off of your constitution. So if you choose Desert, all creatures, not creatures of your choice, but all creatures in your aura take 2 fire damage, and this goes up to 6 at 20th level, that's not a great amount of damage. It really isn't. And then if you choose C, you choose a creature that you can see within the aura. It has to make a dex save, or it takes a whopping 1d6 lightning damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful save. And this goes up to a whopping 4d6 damage at 20th level. That's not impressive. And finally, we've got the Tundra, which gives you temporary hit points, which go up to 6. Then at 6th level, you get the Storm Soul. So you get, none of these do damage. They give you a couple extra effects. At 10th level, we get the Shielding Storm. And you learned mastery of your storm to protect others. Each creature of your choice has resistance, which means this stuff up here will do half damage. That's not great. And finally, we get Raging Storm at 14th level. And you get some extra abilities, like Tundra will reduce their speed to 0. Sea will knock them prone. And Desert will cause them to take some fire damage equal to half your Barbarian level. And this is 14th level ability, so when you get this, that could be 7 points of damage. So again, this isn't a great amount of damage, but it is more damage than the other 2 that we just did. So let's go to the next one. Coming in at number 8 is Path of the Wild Heart Barbarian. This is a 5.5 class. It is coming out of the Player's Handbook, the 2024 5.5, and I am calling it number 8 in our Damage Dealing Barbarian Subclasses, so let's take a look. So this one replaced Path of the Totem from the Legacy Player's Handbook. Now it's called Path of the Wild Heart. It comes with 3 different animal forms. So at the 3rd level, you get the animal speaker. You get the be sent and speak with animals. Also at 3rd level, you get Rage of the Wilds. This is where you get the bear. Now they have changed this a bit. You have resistance to every damage type except for Force, Necrotic, Psychic, and Radiant. You used to have resistance to all damage types except for Psychic. So, but the bear is still pretty powerful as a tank, but not necessarily as a damage dealer. You take Eagle, you can take the Disengage and Dash action as part of a bonus action. When you activate your rage, while your rage is active, you can take a bonus action, take both of these. So you can kind of flit around the combat field and do your thing. And then finally, Wolf. And this is why I put this as a damage dealer, even though this is a kind of help or assistance to the other members of your adventuring party. While your rage is active, your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any enemy of yours within 5 feet of you. So it's like pack tactics, but this actually increases the damage of everybody in the party. So that does pretty massively increase the amount of damage total. 6th level, we get Aspect of the Wilds, we get Dark Vision, we can get a Climb Speed, or we can get a Swim Speed. At level 10, we get Commune with Nature, and finally at level 14, we get Power of the Wilds. So we could get a Fly Speed, we could get the Lion, so any of your enemies within 5 feet of you have disadvantage on attack rolls, and we could get the Ram. While your rage is active, you cause a large or smaller creature to have the prone condition when you hit it with a melee attack. So the big one out of this is this one from the Wolf. That does add quite a bit of damage for a very long time, just giving everybody advantage against something that you're next to. So Path of the Wild is number 8. Coming in at number 7 from Big B's Glory to the Giants is Path of the Giant Barbarian. So let's take a look really quick at the Path of the Giant Barbarian, which is a legacy subclass for barbarians. All right, here's Path of the Giant. Like I said, it is a legacy class from Big B Presents Glory of the Giants. This is one of the first classes in our list that actually has some extra damage per attack. So we get 2 things at 3rd level. We get the Giant's Power, which gives us some versatility with Druidcraft or Thaumaturgy, and we can learn to speak, read, and write Giant. So a little bit of versatility. The big thing is Giant's Havoc. So your rages pull strength from the primal might of giants, and you kind of transform. So you get Crushing Blow when you make a successful range attack with a thrown weapon using strength. You can add your rage damage. So this allows us to use our rage damage with thrown weapons, ranged attack weapons that are thrown, not just melee weapons. And then we get Giant Stature. So our reach increases by 5 feet. We become large. And that's basically it. This will get better when we get to higher levels. At 6th level, we get the Elemental Cleaver, and we choose Acid, Cold, Fire, Thunder, or Lightning when we infuse a weapon. So when you enter a rage, you can choose one weapon you're holding, and we can infuse it. That weapon will do an extra d6 of damage with the type that we chose, and it gains the Thrown property with a normal range of 60 and a long range, normal range of 20 and a long range of 60. And if we throw it, it reappears in our hand the instant after it hits or misses. So what that means is we get to add our rage damage and this extra d6, and we can throw it multiple times because it returns. And then while we're raging and holding an infused weapon, you can use a bonus action to change the infused weapon's current damage type. So if we need to, we can. We get Mighty Impel at 10th level, which means we can basically throw something up to 30 feet. They get a strength saving throw. If it ends this movement, the thrown creature isn't on a surface or liquid that can support it. The creature falls, so we can knock things off cliffs or into pits or things like that. And finally, we got Demiurgic Colossus at 14th level, which allows us to change to huge sized and increases our reach to 10 feet. And our extra damage from Elemental Cleaver goes to 2d6 instead of 1d6. So again, this is the first one where we get extra damage on every single attack. Coming in at number 6 is Path of the Beast. This is another legacy choice, and it can be found in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. All right, here is Path of the Beast from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Basically, you take on the form of a beast. We get Form of Beast at 3rd level. When you enter your rage, you can transform. Until the rage ends, you manifest a natural weapon, and that's based off of what you transform into. So you get to choose, and you can do a bite, you can do claws, or you can do a tail. The bite does a d8. And once on each of your turns, when you damage a creature with the bite, you regain a number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. That's not a lot. Claws, each of your hands transforms into claws. They do a d6 slashing damage on a hit. Once on each of your turns, when you attack with a claw using an attack action, you can make one additional claw attack as part of the same action. So if we were to combine this with Fighter, then maybe we could do a little bit extra because we could get some extra attacks. But it's once on each of your turns you get an extra attack. So that can actually pile up. And then you get the tail, which has the reach property. and it does a D8 piercing damage. If a creature you can see with 10 feet hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction and swipe your tail and roll a D8, applying a bonus to your AC. So a little bit of defense there. The claws is the big one that does the extra damage. Then at 6th level, we get the Bestial Soul, which means our like claws or bite or tail all become magical to go around resistances. And then we either get climbing, jumping, or swimming. At 10th level, we get the Infectious Fury. And when we hit a creature with our natural weapons while we're raging, we curse them. They have to make a wisdom saving throw or suffer one of the effects. Now, this can happen multiple times. So when you hit a creature with your natural weapons while you're raging, the beast within can curse your target with rabid fury. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving or suffer one of the effects. You can use this a number of times with your proficiency bonus. So it's not infinite. And you get them after a long rest. So the target must take a reaction to make a melee attack against another creature. So that kind of acts as an attack. Or the target takes 2d12 psychic damage. This is pretty limited. And then finally, at 14th level, we get Call of the Hunt. So we spread our ferocity to others. And we can choose a number of willing creatures we can see within 30 feet, equal to our con modifier. I gain temporary hit points for each creature that accepts this feature until the rage ends. The chosen creature can use the following benefits once on each of their turns. When the creature hits a target with an attack, they can roll a d6 and add the damage. So that, again, it's not a lot of damage. Most of these don't do a lot of damage, but it is a bit. So that is Path of the Beast. Coming in at number 5 is Path of the Ancestral Guardian, which is coming to us from Xanthars, which means it is another one of these legacy barbarian subclasses. So let's take a look. So here is Path of the Ancestral Guardian. I included this in here even though it doesn't have any damage dealing abilities because it will help keep your party alive. It's not really a tanky one, it's more of a help, but it'll help everyone stay alive longer so that they can themselves do more damage. So at 3rd level, we get Ancestral Protectors, and then at 6th level, we get Spectral Shield. At 10th level, we get Consult the Spirits. We get a bump to Spirit Shield, and at 14th level, we get Vengeful Ancestors and another bump to our Spirit Shield. So Ancestral Protectors, starting when you choose this path at 3rd level, Spectral Warriors appear when you enter your rage. Almost all of this stuff is procced off of entering a rage. And then while we're raging, the first creature you hit with an attack on your turn becomes the target of your warriors, which hinders its attacks. So until the start of your next turn, the target has disadvantage on any attack roll that isn't against you. And when it hits another creature other than you with an attack, that creature has resistance to damage by that attack. So that's great. Then we get Spirit Shield at 6th level, which gets a bump from 2d6 to 3d6 to 4d6. So beginning at 6th level, the guardian spirits that aid you provide supernatural protection to those you defend. If you're raging and another creature you can see within 30 feet takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage by 2d6, then 3d6 at 10th level, then 4d6 at 14th level. At 10th level, we get Consult the Spirits. So you gain the ability to consult your ancestral spirits. When you do so, you cast the Augury or Clairvoyant spell without using a spell slot of materials. Rather than creating a spherical sensor, this use of Clairvoyance invisibly summons one of your ancestral spirits. So there is that. And then after you do this, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And finally, we get Vengeful Ancestors. Your ancestral spirits grow more powerful. When you use your Spirit Shield to reduce damage of an attack, the attacker takes an amount of force damage equal to the damage that your Spirit Shield prevents. So it is a little bit of damage. And this can actually kind of add up quite a bit, even though it is just a reaction. So this could happen once a round or so. It's not a great amount of damage, but this path overall does keep your companions alive for a very long time to do more damage. Coming in at number 4 is Path of the Battle Rager. This is another one of these legacies, and it's coming to us from the Player's Guide from the Sword Coast. It's essentially the Forgotten Realms Player's Guide that came out quite a while ago. So let's take So here it is right here, Path of the Battle Rager from Sword Coast Adventures Guide. Again, a legacy subclass. And the big thing with this one is it is restricted to dwarves only. So only dwarves can follow the Path of the Battle Rager. But we do get a number of things that this Battle Rager dwarf can do. So when you choose this path at 3rd level, you gain the ability to use spiked armor. While you're wearing your armor and you are raging, you can use a bonus action to make 1 melee weapon attack with your armor spikes against a target within 5 feet of you. If it hits, spikes deal a d4 piercing damage. That's not a lot. You use your strength modifier for the attack and damage roll. So that's not too bad. Because this is a melee weapon attack, you can add your rage bonus on this too. And then additionally, when you use the attack action to grapple a creature, the target takes 3 piercing damage if your grapple check succeeds. So that's not too bad. We get Reckless Abandon at 6th level. When you use your Reckless attack while raging, you gain temporary hit points. So that's not more damage. Battle Rager at 10th level, you can make the dash attack as a bonus action. And finally, Spike Retribution at 14th level. When a creature within 5 feet of you hits you with a melee attack, the attacker takes 3 piercing damage if you are raging, are not incapacitated, and are wearing spiked armor. And spiked armor is a medium armor. So we don't get a lot of our barbarian stuff because we're wearing medium armor. But it is what it is. And we are going to do a little bit of extra damage because of this spiked armor. So we're gonna bring this one in. So let's go to the next one. Coming in at number 3 is Path of the Zealot. This is a 5.5 2024 class. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, here is the Path of the Zealot. This was a legacy. Now it has been integrated into the 5.5 2024 Player's Handbook. So we get 2 abilities at 3rd level, and then we get our Fanatical Focus at 6th level, Zealous Presence at 10th level, and Rage of the God is at 14th level. So at 3rd level, we get Divine Fury. We challenge Divine Power into our strikes on each of your turns. And this is a little confusing, but I'm going to try to explain it. On each of your turns while your rage is active, the first creature you hit with a weapon or an unarmed strike takes extra damage equal to 1d6 plus half your barbarian level. So if you hit a creature a second time, that is not the first creature you hit. Thus, it's only 1 time. And then this extra damage is necrotic or radiant. So essentially, this is at this level is going to do 1d6 plus 1, which is not great. That's okay. And that'll get higher as you go up in levels. You also get Warrior of the Gods. So you have a pool of 4d12s that you can spend to heal yourself. So a little bit of extra healing. At 6th level, we get Fanatical Focus. Once per active rage, if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your rage damage, and you must use the new roll, so that's not bad. 10th level, we get Zealous Presence. As a bonus action, you unleash a battle cry. Up to 10 other creatures of your choice within 60 feet gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. That can be a lot of extra damage because everybody's getting advantage. And then once you use this, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you want to expend a rage. And then finally, we get Rage of the Gods. When you activate your rage, you can assume the form of a divine word that lasts for a minute. Once you use this feature, you can't do so until you finish a long rest. While in this form, you gain the benefits below. You can fly, resistance, necrotic, psychic, and radiant, in addition to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. And you get Revivification. When a creature within 30 feet of you would drop to 0, you can take a reaction to expend a use of your rage and instead change the target's hit points to a number equal to your barbarian level. So the big one for damage out of this one is the Divine Fury, which it's not really that big. It's once per turn, but it is better than some of the other classes. So let's go to the next one. Number 2 on our list of top damage dealing barbarian subclasses is Path of the Berserker Barbarian Subclass. And again, this is from 5.5 2024 Player's Handbook. This is a remake of a legacy one, which did change quite a bit. So let's take a look and see how it changed. All right, here is the Path of the Berserker. We get Frenzy at level 3. So if we use Reckless Attack while our rage is active, we deal extra damage. Now, this used to be you got an extra attack as a bonus action, which was pretty awesome. They got rid of that, and now it's deal extra damage to the first target you hit on your turn. Again, it's the first target you hit. It's not the second hit, it's the first hit. So on your turn with a strength-based attack, which basically means it's once per turn. And it's the first turn on your turn, not a turn. To determine the extra damage, roll number of d6s equal to your rage damage bonus. So this starts out as 2d6, and add them together. The damage is the same type as the weapon or unarmed strike used for the attack. So it's a smidgen of extra damage every round. Then we get Mindless Rage, so we get immunity to Charm and Frightened. And if we're charmed or frightened when we enter our rage, it ends. At 10th level, we get Retaliation, so this is another little bit of extra damage. When you take damage from a creature that is within 5 feet of you, you can take your reaction to make one melee attack against that creature. So that's a full-on attack. So that's actually pretty good. Now, I wish this up here in Frenzy did not say on your turn, because this reaction is not your turn. If it just said a turn, then you could use the Frenzy with this, but it's not. So that is unfortunate. And then at level 14, we get Intimidating Presence. So as a bonus action, we strike terror in others. So when we do, everybody in a 30 foot, each creature of our choice has to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, they're frightened for 1 minute. At the end of each of their turns, they make another save. So this is a big one too, because they have disadvantage on attack rolls against us. So that helps us out a lot. But the Path of Berserker, number 2, probably some of the better damage than some of the other ones. And so let's take a look at what is number 1. All right, number 1 on our list is Path of the Titan. This is coming from the Northlands book, which is a third-party book which was added pretty recently within the last 2.5 months to the list of D&D Beyond legal option. Here it is, Path of the Titan from Northlands World Book. So at 3rd level, we get Rage of Titans. So whenever you activate your Rage, if you are smaller than large, you become large, and everything grows with you. While you are large, we double our carrying capacity. We have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and our attacks with weapons or unarmed strikes deal 1 additional die of damage. So it gives an example here. A great sword attack deals 3d6. A great axe attack deals 2d12. I have a build using a barbarian that uses a weapon in each hand, which means each one of those weapons is going to do an extra dice of damage. And this adds up a lot. Now, in addition, and they don't really say this, so we're going to go over to the actual book itself. This is one of the kind of anomalies with D&D Beyond. With some of these third-party books, they don't actually tell you the levels that you get this stuff at, just the 3rd level one. So let's go over to the Northlands World Book and look at it. All right, here it is. There it is, Rage of Giants, so that we already went over that. At level 6, we get Crushing Steps. As part of your movement, you can move through the space of any creature with a size smaller than you. And remember, when you are raging, you are large. An enemy whose space you move through must succeed on a strength saving throw or have the prone condition and lose the ability to take reactions, which means they can't attack you with an opportunity attack until the start of its next turn. That's pretty good. So you can run right over them as part of your movement and then prone them. You don't really have to worry about reckless attack at that point because they're prone. So you get advantage, and then you can just blast them at that point, which is going to cause your damage to go up because you do have advantage. And they are not going to be able to go after you very easily. At level 10, we get Titanic Strikes. When you use your Brutal Strike feature, the distance the target is pushed by your forceful blow is doubled, and the speed of a target struck by your hamstring blow is reduced to 0. That is massive. I love forced movement. And then finally, at level 14, we get Rage of Titans. So instead of turning into large, we turn into huge. And of course, our equipment grows. While we are huge, our carrying capacity triples. Our reach increases by 5 feet. Again, we still have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. And your attacks with weapons or unarmed strikes deal 2 additional dice of damage. So a great sword, instead of dealing 2d6, deals 4d6. And a great axe, instead of dealing 1d12, deals 3d12. And again, remember, if we are wielding a weapon in each hand, here's hand axes, and those happen to have the nick property, we get a bunch of extra attacks, and they will be dealing 2 extra dice of damage. So for instance, a scimitar deals 1d6. Now it's going to deal 3d6 damage, which is massive with the number of attacks we can get. So this is my number 1 damage dealing subclass. Let's take a look at it right there. There they are. Number 1, Path of the Titan. Number 2, Path of the Berserker. Number 3, Path of the Zealot. 4, Path of the Battle Rager. 5, Path of the Ancestral Guardian. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. So, if you have any comments to put about this, put them down below in the comments. I would love to hear from everybody, and that is the video I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.